Hey friends, welcome to this week's weekly live stream. Today I'm going to be breaking down a handful of news stories that popped up over the last week. And camera's in a different spot this week, different camera. Hopefully it looks a little bit more clear. But basically going to be treating this week's live stream like I did last week, kind of like a podcast where I have some different topics here. Going to try to take questions from the audience about these different topics. And then at the end, we'll just kind of hang out and do what we do. But first, I want to thank Alicia and Rich over there for supporting the Hey Brickey store and grabbing the Mad Horn hat and patch. Thank you both. But let's jump in real quick. Just want to say hi to a couple of folks, and then we'll get going for anybody who's watching on delay. I want to say hello to Vinton, Stu, Rich, Shoshana, all the folks that are over there hanging out. Let me just adjust one thing, and we'll get going on our live stream. So last week, one of the things that we talked about was I was just, not saying for sure, but just kind of saying, is Disney struggling right now? And I kind of went through lots of little different details about, just different operational cutbacks. And I typically like to do a different topic each week, but this topic has kind of continued a little bit over the course of the last week. And there's a couple of things that I want to share with you guys. So I went to the park last week. I went there with the gang on Wednesday night. Halloween, as you know, was on Friday. And so everybody wanted to do one last Halloween rip through the park and see all the Halloween decorations. And so 3 different carloads of us showed up, 3 different couples, 2 each in each car. We all showed up at different times. And I say this because it got worse and worse as the evening went on. As another couple would show up, 5-10 minutes later, their time to get to the Esplanade was even more delayed. Because essentially, even though it was Halloween week and they've been promoting Halloween since August, they only had 1 attendant working 4 of the parking booths. Now let's do the math real quick. I believe they have a total of 5 or 6 parking booths. And if you're only going to have 4 running, that's fine, but maybe have 2 attendants in it. Because 4 parking booths going is actually 8 lanes of cars, but 4 cast members doing 8 lanes of cars. Now, there was actually an extra cast member in each of these booths, but they were counting out their register from the day. And so the cars were getting all the way backed up over to Ball Road. And I mean, it's not unusual for a lot of different locals that have a magic key, that book reservations and play the system game, that maybe want to come to the park when it's dark, because that is the right time to celebrate Halloween and all the decorations, and to come after their work day or the kids have gotten out of school. Like, that's not unusual, okay? And so I, doing what I do for a living, I look down at my watch and go, okay, we just pulled into the parking here at a little bit before 6:30. I made a guesstimate, and my guesstimate was right. It took us over 45 minutes to get through the parking. Now you may say, oh, here's a local who's just complaining, goes to the park too much, whatever, get there early. Okay, that's fine. Have that opinion about us locals. But that night, the park closed at 10 o'clock. That's Disneyland. The bad part is DCA closed at 9 o'clock. So people that showed up around 6, a little bit after 6, couldn't even get their car parked till a little bit after 7. By the time you go through security lines were very short that night, but I think it was because of the delay of people going from parking lot over to the actual trams. But by the time we got in the Esplanade, it was a little bit before 8 o'clock. By the time our mobile order of food was ready, it was 8:15. We ate dinner over in San Francisco and DCA. By the time me and the gang had dinner, it was about 8:50, 8:55. So our idea of showing up, doing one last lap around DCA and celebrating Halloween didn't quite go the way that it planned. So I just want to break down a couple of operational things here about all this and why I kind of think that this is a really bad sign of where Disney's at. As I said earlier in our discussion, they promote the hell out of Halloween. Starts in August. We planned to go there on a night when there was no Oogie Boogie Bash, which takes up basically half of the availability of nights at DCA. So we strategically picked the night where we know that we could enjoy both parks, because if we're driving down, we want to do both. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to go all the time, but I don't get to go a lot with my friends, with my wife, with the gang, and hang out and have fun. So literally got no DCA. And then I thought about this, I'm fortunate enough because of all of this and meeting all the people that I meet and being on this journey that I have the toppest tier pass that's available to a guest. So I don't have to pay for parking. But that's not true for all Magic Key holders. It's not true for all locals. And the parking is at the top now $40 and below, depending on if you have some sort of discounts or perks. So just right out of the bat, operationally, a real sour taste was put in everybody's mouth just because, you know that it's expensive. You know that it's crowded. We're used to all of that. That's part of the rub, right? Like, no newsflash there. But it was one of those nights where I brought my camera. I actually carried my camera the entire night because I wanted to shoot a vlog. I wanted to show you guys, here's me and the gang enjoying one last night of Halloween. That was going to be the video that I was going to put up Friday. I ended up doing a live stream in the park. But I ended up not shooting one clip. And oh no, don't feel sorry for me, a YouTuber abusing the park. But I bring this up because it just ruined the vibe. And I feel like sometimes it's nice to make a video where it's like, hey, these are things that Disney's doing wrong. Because as you know, part of my brand is never going to be to like follow the corporation blindly and say everything that they do is amazing. I'll always call it straight. If they do something that's awesome, I will tell you it's awesome. If they create Disney magic, I will tell you it's Disney magic. Like, I still go to the park. I still have a great time. I still cry when the magic gets to me. But I'll also tell you when it's straight up bullshit. And I'll also call them out when they are wrong, diddly wrong, to quote great Ned Flanders. And friends, closing at 10 o'clock on Halloween week when you've been promoting it forever and having that few cast members working when you have the reservations. It's not like it was a surprise. This wasn't a 2019 local sneak up on Disneyland. This was calculated. They knew how many people were coming there. They could look at the metrics and tell how many of those people were indeed locals. And they probably have the data to know that locals skew a later arrival. And they also know that it's Halloween and people go because they want to see the Halloween decorations. So maybe I sound like a local who's complaining, but I'll tell you this. Everybody has the right to complain when the prices keep going up and the service keeps going down. So I wanted to start with that little opening tale of what the park was like last week, because that kind of gives you an indication of what it's like boots on the ground. But I looked over all the news stories since we last talked and had our weekly discussion last Tuesday, and I find more stories that kind of all align with what we talked about last week. So, you know me. I love talking about Imagineering. I love talking about the design of the park and all that stuff. But I find that the most fascinating thing about Disney right now is this moment that we're in of these very bizarre moments of extreme cutbacks while at the same time extreme price hikes. And I want to kind of just talk about something, and this will be kind of a through line for tonight's episode. And thank you so much for joining me live, or thanks for joining me on a delay. Try to make my live stream so that you can enjoy them both ways. And I do want to take some questions over here from the chat about people that maybe have seen some scaling back or feeling some scaling back. And if you think that I'm just being a whiny local, by all means, call me out. Like, I can take it. I'm down to be told what's up. But I just point all of this out because I find that Disney's in a rough spot to where this might be the rest of the company's future until enough people just said, I've had enough. I can't take it anymore. Because Disney, like every other major corporation, they find themselves playing a 100-day cycle. Corporations are no longer rewarded for having long-term vision. They are held accountable, penalized, beaten up, criticized for not meeting 100-day goals. Essentially, every 3 months, if you can't move the needle forward a little bit, then you are, in the world of business, this is what business people will tell you, and this is why business people are assholes. If you're not growing, you're dying. And that's simply not true. If you look at art and artists and people that have, in fact, changed the world, they didn't worry about the 90 days. They worried about the 90 years, how to make a product that will change the world. They worried about the next 9 years. They didn't worry about 3 months. They worried about 3 years. If you look at people like Steve Jobs, his mind was focused on how do I innovate? How do I change things? When you look at somebody like Walt Disney, he wasn't worried about Disneyland turning a profit in the first 3 months. He was worried about doing something that would change the face of entertainment. And he knew that if he clearly arose to the challenge, that he would do something monumental, something that people would talk about, forever and ever, creating a legacy. And he also knew that he would create generational wealth. And he did that because he was from a time when you could actually bet it all on black. And people gave you space to do so. So I find it very, very interesting that this might just end up being the future of not only the Disney Corporation, but every corporation in our life. As every company around us needs to go forward every 90 days, that means they're going to always be trying to find new ways to charge more to us and to give us less. So I'm proud to say, where is it? I voted today, and I hope you did too. But there's a sad realization that no matter who you vote for, what we're fighting is corporate greed and sort of the way that the system is set up to squeeze out the little guy. And I don't think Disney's going to be immune to that. And I think if anything, because of their positioning and because of their high profile and because of how many people look at them and how many people have bought the Disney stock, because it kind of feels like one of those things that's recession proof and, it has such a great, historical notion of like Disney's an all-American company and they're always on the grow. They're always doing amazing things. I think this might just be the future for a long time of, portions get smaller, payment for the food goes up, and all the different funnels of reservations, mobile ordering, like all the different little like touch points to just get the food feels more complicated. It will definitely stay that way until the company's on the decline. And, it seems like people always have a budget for Disney, but will they? Because Disney's not the only one who's squeezing you out. And so theoretically, people have always had money for Disney. But all the other corporations are getting just as aggressive as Disney. So will they always have money for Disney? All right. Let's see what people are saying over in the chat. I'm seeing lots of people say that they voted, and I'm proud of them all. Whether you voted the way that I did or you voted complete opposite of me, I'm just excited that you went out and voted. And I think that should be celebrated, that everybody is like, this is my country and I believe in it. And I want to go out and I want to be the face of change, especially in an off year. It's hard to get excited about things in the off year, but man, I got choked up seeing it doesn't matter where I voted. And I voted in several states through my lifetime. You always know that the people that are there donating their time at the polls are going to just be like the nicest people. They don't seem like they're people of means. And it just chokes me up that people that seem to have less fight for it more. And I got a little teary-eyed when the nice lady gave me this sticker, and I was like, no, thank you. She was like, thank you for voting. I'm like, no, thank you for what you've done all day for the rest of us. All right, let's jump over here. Iggy says, hey, Brickey, what do you make of Disney eliminating the enchant key? Curious to hear your take on why they dropped it and what it might mean for pass holders going on. Iggy, you'll have to give me more context for that, because because of my learning disability, I cannot keep straight what the different keys are Did they like eliminate a key, or was that the key that they had the lawsuit on, and then that one got shut down? And I need a little bit more context on that, because when I look at all the keys, I can't remember which one's the top, which one's the bottom. I can't keep it straight. I purposely didn't vote early this time because I wanted to vote in person. I wanted to feel it, and I didn't want anybody to question it. I didn't want anybody to say, oh, mail-in voting's a hoax. I want to be like, no, man, I went there. I did it in person. I wanted to be a part of it. There were people lined up around the block, and it felt great to see everybody else voting. Okay, if Enchant was the one with the lawsuit, then we just kind of have to eliminate that. If that is true, because, they worded it improperly, somebody kind of caught them in between the lines of the law, and they had to abandon it. But they basically made a product that's pretty similar to it. So I'm not gonna get strung out on that. Oh, and just the opposite. See, I Enchant is the lowest key. Had to wait 2 hours to vote. Well, good for you. The key names are no longer descriptive the way Deluxe, Premier, etc. were. Yeah, that's why, because they're all like emotions. It's like, well, do I believe that things will get better and I have the lower pass because I believe that one day I'll be able to go to the park more? Or do I have the believe pass because I believe so much in the magic that I'll spend an ungodly amount of money on it? Enchant is the middle of the road key. Okay, well, annual passes aside, because they put them on sale, they take them off on sale. Like, that's kind of a revolving door. And, again, that's just all based on the idea of supply and demand. They know how many people they want coming in the park for all of those different buckets, and the bucket is defined by price. And so they obviously have a very intelligent algorithm that figures out we need, because the cheaper the price is, the more people that you'll get. So they're like, okay, we want to get tens of thousands of people at the lower price, but we'll only let them have access to, say, 100+ days of the year. Then the next one up, we want to get 20,000 people at the next tier, and we'll give them a little bit more of the calendar. So it's all figured out by an algorithm of how many thousands of people they want at that price point, how much inventory can they give them? They have it all calculated. So when you see certain tickets go away, that just means they have enough people in that bucket, right? And the amount you pay is directly associated with how many days on the calendar you get and how many reservations you can hold. So when you see that they have the top tier open, they're just saying, you know what? For $2,000, come on down, baby, buy a key. Come on, we'll fit you in. But for the lower price, which I don't even know what it is, for the lower price, we got enough of you. And then they do the other sly little thing where they go, but you know what? Because we are playing for the 100 days, let's just go ahead and sell a pile of these SoCal tickets. So then also we have good press. We're like, oh, no. I mean, a family can still go to Disneyland for $85 a day. Well, if you buy 3 days through the low ticket that has very limited days that you can use it in an odd sort of sales window. So that's how they're doing all of that. All right, let's move on to something else, because the prices are always going to go up and the keys and all that stuff is just kind of crazy. But this is what I wanted to bring up. So there's two ways we can look at this. And old me would have looked at this next story as awesome. But new me is kind of like, is it awesome? So I'd love to hear what the live audience has to say about this next story. So Big Thunder Mountain, as we all know, had closed down and had been having operational difficulties. I, for one, when rides go down and they get closed down, that always makes me happy, because that means that they're spending money on making the rides, more reliable uptime. I would much rather see a ride go down for 3 months than literally shut down 3 times a day and put the park into a frenzy. Because when a ride goes down for 3 months, guests can look at the calendar and go, man, we're a big Thunder family. Maybe we won't go for Junior's birthday. We'll go in the fall when the ride's supposed to come back up. But when you buy a ticket based on thinking you're going to get to ride Big Thunder, and when you walk by there at 9 a.m. and you heard the whistle of the engine going around the mountain, and then when your lightning lane comes up at 7 o'clock and it's down for the day, and then you're kind of like stressed out, and then it comes back up while you have your dinner reservation, it's just not fun. So I'm always down for taking one offline. So I think that's a good thing. And as somebody, as you may have been following on this channel, I love to follow all the different building permits and kind of see what's going on. And so Disneyland quietly opened up Big Thunder on they quietly opened it up 3 weeks ahead of schedule. It was supposed to open up on November 23rd, and it is back to running. So that's good news, right? 3 earlier weeks of Big Thunder Mountain. Old me would have been super pumped and excited on that. But cut back Disney me has to wonder, is this good? Did they get it done early, or did they just go, you know what? Some of those polish pieces that we were going to do, let's just skip that. For example, now as you maybe saw the cover of today's live stream, when you are doing the incline, kind of going through the mouth of the beast, the waterfall has been removed and misters have been put in there. And so, let's look at this 2 different ways. A waterfall is more expensive to keep going because you have to treat the water, and there's all kinds of different things you have to do. And also water does create damage, and it creates a lot more like cleanup and repair. So yeah, you put the misters in. The misters can maybe capture the light a little bit more. Maybe look like the beast of the mountain, is kind of like breathing and it's like smoke coming out of the nostrils. Or is it more cheaper to do the mist? And I mean, if it's cheaper and it's more affordable, they got a business to run. And if it's cheaper and it's more efficient, then it is a win. But there's a part of me now that just wonders if they were able to get a job done 3 weeks early, is there something that they just cut out? And here's what they wouldn't cut out. They wouldn't cut out any sort of infrastructure improvements. They wouldn't cut out anything that had to do with safety. What they would cut out would be the polish or the shine. So was there maybe 3 weeks of painting that was going to happen, or installing some different projections as we're seeing them going around the park, filing permits to do all types of projections? There was a lot of different permits that got filed for this project. And when I put up my first, review of it going down or in the construction updates, I said, this is going to be down for a while. And people were like, oh no, Brickey, you got it wrong. It's going to open up on Sunday. And then that Sunday they had to readjust the calendar because it was indeed going to be down for a while. So when I looked at the permits and kind of looked over them and studied them, it did look like there was quite a deal of work. And so then when I saw that it opened up early, and I haven't experienced it yet firsthand, I just saw it over at my friends, wdwnt.com. I was like, oh, that's cool. They got it done early. And then I was like, but is that cool? And Cut Down Disney, can we trust that when the walls come down early, like Storybook Land Canal boats, the walls are down? Like, can we trust that they fully did everything they were going to do? Or did they look over projects like this and go, here's the thing. Maybe we haven't paid for the materials yet, or maybe we have paid for the materials, but let's hold off for this quarter because paint don't go bad or whatever else that we bought. We can just kind of keep that in one of our, off-premises warehouses, and let's just spread that budget out for like 90 days from now, because if we can get that ride open during the holiday season, and if we see an influx in lightning lanes and blah, 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 then we meet our 100-day goal. So essentially, instead of losing 3 weeks of Big Thunder now, will it have to go down in a not too far away future because they didn't do that work now? I don't know any of this for sure, but when you see the park closing at 10 o'clock on Halloween week, when the weeks leading up to Halloween, it was open till 11. And we all know that traditionally Disneyland stays open till midnight for an extra hour of shopping convenience. So technically 1 a.m. When you see things like that happening in our other stories, you have to wonder, was there 3 weeks worth of work that were cut off? And like I said, the 3 weeks that would get cut off, that would be the polish. That would be the shine. That would be the things that make Disney magic. Let me see what they have to say over the chat. JDG says, I think you're spot on, Brickey. I appreciate that. Angela, good to see you over there, bud. Maybe the thought that they were going to repair the waterfall and determined it was structurally a liability and misters were the right answer for the reliability. I mean, yeah, I think, the misters, I don't want to get caught up on the nuance of that. I think, if the misters are more efficient, if they look better, then that's the way that you go. But now you have to be a little bit skeptical, right? I mean, it used to feel like there was spare no expense. The guests, the experience is what matters. And I don't know that it's that way. Vegas Disney RTV says, I think Disneyland is also trying to encourage multi-day stays. I think you're absolutely right. And I think that is something that we will definitely see them making Disneyland Forward a big part of. All right, Janice, thank you so much for the super chat. I just didn't want to interrupt the flow of the story. So put a big thanks to Janice over here on the wall. And I also saw that while I was doing our second story of the night, that Jonathan Lawrence bought something off the shop. So, got the thank you list over there on the wall, which might be a little bit hard to see because of the focal range of this camera. Are you guys liking the new camera? I know it's a low shot. I'm going to get a proper mount for it, but tonight's just kind of a test run to see how the new camera looks. Hopefully it's crystal clear for you guys and has a nice depth of field and feels more like the vlogs and less like a live stream. Names on the board. Let's go. Which niece says they just have to have multicolored mist. That'd be better, right? LOL. Well, you know what's funny is when they were originally doing Big Thunder Mountain, the Imagineers were trying to figure out how they could do color water fountains. And the idea is that they would dye the water and say like the yellow water would stay in its own cycle. So the yellow water would come up, it would fall down, it would collect, and it would go through, and then there would be like a red one and a green one and all that stuff. But they realized that there was just no way to keep from cross-contaminating the different dyed water, and that ultimately they would go through all this work, and then all the colors would mix together, and it would just be brown water. So that's kind of how they got the idea of projecting the lights all through the cavern. But the original Imagineering idea was really to have dyed water that would be shooting around, which is kind of a wild thought, right? Joe, you can call me Gabagool. We just finished the comp, some great work. I think mist would cause more moisture in the air than the waterfall. Oh, interesting. Let me put Joe over here on the board and we'll jump into our next story. Unless I look over here and I see some other people have some thoughts on, I would love to see over in the chat for people that are with me live. And if you're watching on delay, put it down in the comment section. But what do you think? 3 weeks early, ahead of schedule, which is kind of rare in construction, or more cutbacks? There is no way I could spell gabagool, so we'll just go with Joe. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you. Yeah, I know that they tried big time. Big time they tried back in the day to get the water dye to work, and it just ended up being a failure. Okay. Seeing some cutbacks. Scheduling conflict, cutback. Joe, I need to see... send me over through the Hey Brickey web store, which, by the way, the Matterhorn hat is available, as well as just the Matterhorn patch. And then we also have a variant of this hat, a very subtle variant where it just doesn't have the white cap on top, which we are having as our Black Friday item. We won't be around on Black Friday. We'll be traveling over to Europe. So if you want to get one of those for $25, that's $15 off the normal price over there if you want to celebrate 2025 champions like the 1955 champions. All right, let's jump into our next story, which gets into the idea of, when one thing shuts down and then has to shut down again. So Indiana Jones, as you may remember, had a significant shutdown. It was closed for over a month earlier this year, March 17th to April 24th. And it is going to be going down again Tuesday, December 2nd. And it'll come back up on the 4th. So just a couple of days. Not that big of a deal. Probably just something in there that they need to do some fine tuning on. Indiana Jones is one of those attractions that does struggle for consistent up times. It kind of goes down quite often, but normally will pop back up. But this is a little 2-day blip. And I bring it up because that little 2-day blip is unfortunate for people that's going to be when they come out to the park for the holidays and they're not going to get to do Indy, which, I would say most people would probably have Indy in their top 5, top 10 attractions out of the park. So I wanted to bring this up just because, plan ahead if you're coming out on the beginning of December. But that gets kind of into the idea of when the attractions go down for a sizable time, you would hope that they would be able to knock everything out. And so when we look at the fact that, they cut 3 weeks off of Big Thunder Mountain, does this mean that in the future there will be more shutdowns because they didn't get everything done, or they did get everything done? But the reason why I'm being this kind of, I don't think that I'm being negative. I think that I'm just kind of being a little bit more, apprehensive, because what do I do on my channels? I study the past so I can better predict the future. And if you just look at a lot of the signs that Disney is giving us with just the scaling back, like there's hardly any entertainment in the park. The 70th anniversary, they kind of dialed it in. They didn't really do anything crazy as far as entertainment. They just rewarded us with old things coming back. And, there's just a pattern of these that are happening around the park. For example, Wondrous Journeys is back. Little temporary show because the Halloween show just wrapped up, and they're not going to start the Christmas show, Believe in Holiday Magic, until the 14th. So they're doing Wondrous Journeys in between. But the Wondrous Journeys show doesn't have any of the castle performers. No Baymax, no Blue Fairy. And I get it. Blue Fairy is definitely a skilled job. So maybe it's hard to get that performer to just do 2 weekends on a 2-week run. Maybe that's kind of a hard thing for them to grab somebody to do that. So that makes sense. And maybe the same thing for Baymax. Like maybe that's a skilled crew that has to operate Baymax, for the Wondrous Journeys. And so they just pull those back. But, I look at a lot of this as an artist, and I could put up a video for you, and maybe I accidentally turned off a layer. So you only see like my base roll of my A roll, then the jump cuts where I kind of like, the camera kind of focuses in on me to kind of bring in like, pontificate like a punchline of a joke or a point that I'm trying to make, or just also kind of make it not so jarring if it's a tight edit. And then there's a layer of B-roll, and then there's another layer of B-roll. So maybe I accidentally turned off that layer of B-roll. So you just saw me talking with just a little bit of B-roll. And maybe you'd be like, oh, the video is fine, Brickey. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I trust that you do. But I'm so angry because I put all of this work in that other roll, that other level of B-roll. And that other level of B-roll was all designed to take you further into the story, to get your attention more. And, on the first level of B-roll, it might be the wide shot of pirates. And then the second one is when it zooms in on a detail. I love that my videos are kind of cinematic, and I might capture a detail that you haven't thought about, or I might capture your favorite detail that you look at while you're in line or when you're on the attraction. You're just like, man, this guy gets it. That's my favorite little part of the attraction. The 2 dudes sword fighting in the shadows in the big scene when you first go into where now all the pirates are alive, or are they dead? Or are you dead? It's a video we're working on for the future, the kind of hidden story of Pirates of the Caribbean. But I bring this up because I met the guy who designed Wondrous Journeys. I met him on the Mark Twain. He's like, hey, are you Brickey? I'm like, yeah. He's like, dude, I listened to your podcast all through the pandemic. So awesome to meet you. Was a very, very nice guy. That guy was a true artist. We were talking about art. We were talking about, I asked him some technical questions about how the show works. Super nice guy. Very, very nice guy. Him and his brother and their family. That guy designed that show to have those beats. And if the Blue Fairy and Baymax isn't there, it takes out the heart and soul of this right? Disney designs everything like this. Go big, calm down. Go bigger, calm down. Go big, calm down. Big, 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 down. Big, kiss goodbye. Like there is a complete graph that the Imagineers and the artists follow to get your emotions going through the whole show. The reveal of the Blue Fairy at the end of Act 1 is a surprise. You're like, whoa! Now your mind thinks anything is possible. And you can tell that it's a real person. So then when Baymax comes through and the We Could Be Heroes scene, and it's kind of the crescendo at the end of Act 2, your brain's going, is that a person doing Baymax? Like, how did that just happen? And then as the lights go down, that resets it for the final act when it goes through. Those two things are there as storytelling beats. They are transitions into the next big moment. They kind of put the period on one sentence, and now you start a different part of your journey. When they're not there, most people don't know what they're missing. But for an artist, for a creative, you go, that is where I put all of the effort, all of the work. They gave me enough budget for 2 of these moments. All of Act 1 leads to the Blue Fairy. All of Act 2 leads to Baymax. And you've literally just taken out the magic. So in isolation, probably hard to get those people to show up and work. But when you take all the pieces and you put them all together, it's just starting to feel like, this is wrong. I don't want to go there and my expectations to be, you get what you get. It's bullshit. We don't pay a get what you get rate. You should get the magic. You should get the magic every single time. And everything should be 10 out of 10. I mean, after all, this is a corporation that has written books. Be Our Guest. Disney University. They are celebrated for being top tier in guest experience and customer service. At least they used to be. Fantastic. Don't get me started on the cutbacks on that one. Raccoon CDs has been feeling about a lot of stuff about all things Disney. Been feeling. I think there's a word missing in that sentence, and I read it wrong. Vinton, thank you so much. Nobody romances the park in their vlogs better than you. Well, thank you so much. I love Disneyland. So everything that I'm saying today, it comes from a moment and a place of love. Like, I love the park. I love what it stands for. I love going there. I love telling its story. I love documenting it. I love explaining how it works and kind of like celebrating the level of intelligence that exists behind it. Like, I absolutely love that place. So this is just all like, how you critique somebody that you love. I'm sure there's plenty of parents that are watching this and you want the best for your kids. And sometimes you have to tell them the uncomfortable truth because you only want them to grow up to be the best adults possible. I'm always willing to say the uncomfortable truth with Disney because I just want what's best for it. And right now, I think that I could kind of handle a lot of the price raises and sort of adjustments and the over reliance of making you use your mobile phone when the experiences felt like they were top tier, but now they're just kind of sandwich you in for both directions. Have you ever seen that graphic where it's like, well, you can get to work fast and you can get to work good and you can get to work cheap, but you can't get all 3 of those triangles, right? You can't get good, fast, and cheap. You can pick 2. You can get cheap and fast, or you can get, whatever, but you can't get all 3. I feel like Disney is trying to thread the needle on getting all 3. We're going to charge more, give less, and, ideally make a not so fantastic experience. CKB, enjoy Europe. Here is a cup of Joe on me, unless the airport coffee, then it might not be enough. I will definitely tell Beth that you said hi, and I'll tell Beth, I'm like, no, 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 you don't get a coffee because this is an airport coffee, and this is from CKB, and get your own live stream to buy your own coffee. Oh, you can't see that. All right. So there's a handful of stories, and then there's one more that I want to talk to, and then we'll just go to an open discussion over here in the chat for the rest of the time that we have left. JDG, I feel for a long time it's been a love-hate relationship, Sigh. The triangle of constraints. Love to Beth in the popcorn bucket. Popcorn bucket is doing well. Had a big moment in their journey, and hopefully things will be going well for a while now. So hanging in there, getting it done. All right, so the last thing that I want to bring up, and then we'll do an open discussion, and then we won't go too far in the detail of this one. But like I said, the reason why I'm being kind of this harsh on these little operational things is literally when I got off from doing last week's live stream, it was announced that they would be laying off close to 100 of their salaried employees. This is what their statement was. With our business in a period of steady, sustained operation, we are recalibrating our organization to ensure we continue to deliver exceptional experiences for our guests while positioning Disneyland Resort for the future. As part of this, we've made the difficult decision to eliminate a limited number of salaried positions. We are deeply grateful for the contributions of these cast members and are committed to supporting them with care, respect, and resources during this transition. So, letting go of 100 people a couple months before Christmas in a economy that's feels like it's at any moment going to go the wrong way, and when prices are going sky high, and most people, and then the last couple of days, have gotten notices that your insurance may be double. But these people don't have insurance now, so they'll just have to figure all that out on their own. So the most important part of this, with our business in a period of steady. Period of steady. 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 That's weird. When I went to the park last week, it was steady. It was a slow and steady operation to get hundreds of cars into the parking garage at the 6 o'clock hour when it's known that lots of locals show up, especially during the holiday week. Main Street did have a steady flow of people walking down it when the park closed at 10 o'clock that night, and people were kind of surprised that it was shutting down so early. Steady. I did see lots of long lines of people slowly and steadily moving their way through long lines to ride their attractions. Steady. The new gate system is a disaster. It takes forever to get through the new gates. And so there is normally a pretty long and steady line of people waiting to get into the parks. I guess they're right. I guess they're in a period of steady. Wherever you look, there's people lined up, waiting in line, steady, waiting their turn. But steady doesn't help you win the 100 days. Steady doesn't help you beat the high score you have to get when you have your conference call with your board and the investors. Nope. Steady, as I learned from Bugs Bunny, slow and steady wins the race. But nowadays, everybody wants to turbocharge their future. And they want instant success tomorrow, which absolutely goes against the Walt Disney ideology of there is no instant success. There's hard work and vision. If you dream it, you can build it. And it takes time to build it, and it takes time to get there. It doesn't take 100 days. All right, friends, that's the podcast portion of tonight's live stream. Some stories I had planned out for you, all tied together, kind of looking at the tea leaves and making whatever conclusions that we can. Hopefully you enjoy that. Hopefully you're enjoying the new camera setup. I'm going to get a higher. The goal is to have the camera where it's like here, but to also where I can release it, because I want to be able to kind of like vlog in my own office, right? Like I want to be able to walk over to the board and just take the camera with me. And I want to be able to kind of like, if I want to do something over there, like if I want to show you guys something, I want to just be able to like go over to it. So this is a state of like trying to make the live streams feel more like a vlog that I'm doing inside of my studio. Producer Angela says, Wall Street demands infinite growth with continuous velocity increase. That's why she's producer Angela, because she always gets it. Always gets it. Yeah, it's too dark in here for me to focus on it, but yeah. It's too, whoa, hey. There I am. It's too dark, but you can see it. There it is. You can see that it's still there. Yes, the spot is still on the wall. I've been too stressed out to try to paint over it, because I'm like, well, then it's going to make the whole wall look weird. Are you putting your Christmas tree up before you leave on your holiday vacation? Absolutely we are, because we always host a little thing at our house called Friendsgiving. Typically we do Friendsgiving on actual Thanksgiving, where Beth prepares dinner for all, my buds that always show up in the vlog. Hold on, I got to do this or I'll be looking in the wrong spot the whole time. All my friends that show up in the vlog, the Glasses, Tavo, Denise, the Hammer and Carl. Hammers, that's our last name. All those folks always come over to the house, and Beth makes a amazing Thanksgiving meal, and we do it on our Traeger grill. And we're doing that early because we are not going to be around. And so, we're going to be putting up our Christmas tree. Next weekend, I'm in Vegas, so I think we're going to do it the weekend after that. So we can, or maybe we're doing it this weekend. I can't remember. Raccoon CD. How about working for success today? No, today is now, yesterday, and soon tomorrow will come next. Yeah, man, that's what you're talking about. What I'm talking about is the nuance of success, and everybody wants it like tomorrow or today, I guess. Yeah, the hammers and glasses, that is a dangerous combination when you get those two together. So that is the plan on the Christmas tree. You can see that it's actually now focused over there. There we go. Now it's back on me. Using a real camera is interesting for live streaming. So we're doing that for Christmas. And then that's when we're putting up our Christmas tree, as Jesse asked. And then for Christmas Eve, I did a boat cruise, and I made a video about it where it all went totally sideways, went wrong. We do a boat cruise too on Christmas Eve. That's our other big friend group thing that we get together. So every Christmas Eve, we go out and do a boat cruise. I'm the pilot. I put on the Christmas mix. Beth makes lots of snacks, and we have hot chocolate, and other people have boozy drinks. And we cruise around Long Beach and look at all the Christmas decorations. It's one of my favorite things. Boat already reserved, ready to go. Which knee? Do you like when people post your videos as Disney to Disney channels and social media? Not posing as you, but just posting a link to your video. Yeah, no, that actually helps when people do take your content and they share it organically. Like, hey, this guy made a video about this. Check it out. That actually is one of the best things you can do for some of your favorite content creators, because what that signals to YouTube is like, oh, this video is so good that people are directing viewers to YouTube to watch it. So yeah, that's awesome. Angela, did you find a new boat rental company? See, Angela, the producer, pays attention. You know what? Because it's Christmas, we're just gonna go with the one that we know. You know what I mean? Gonna go with the girl that brought us to the dance. Ninja Kingdom. Hey, Brickey, do you think if and when Disney finally remodels Tomorrowland, it's always Tomorrowland, do you think Space Mountain will get the Tokyo Disneyland treatment? I think so. I think that Space Mountain is unfortunately in a troublesome location. And I think Space Mountain being so successful and also being in a troublesome location is exactly why Tomorrowland hasn't got touched for so long. So I feel like if they do get rid of Space Mountain, people will absolutely have a fit. So I believe that the redesign of Tomorrowland will have a redesign of Space Mountain, and you will see it positioned differently, because right now, the way that it is, like on a map, it looks like it's in the back corner. But if you think about how it's designed to walk through Space Mountain or through Tomorrowland, if you think about how you walk through Tomorrowland, you walk through Tomorrowland like this. Okay? You come in, and then you go like this to Space Mountain, which sits over in here. And so the problem is that Main Street sits like here and it's behind it. And so you have to use this part of Tomorrowland to get people in, and then this part of Tomorrowland to get people to Space Mountain. So therefore, Space Mountain really, it's in the farthest corner. It's actually back behind Main Street, but you have to go all the way through here, there to get to it. So it basically uses, as far as the walkways go, about 75% of the walkways to get to this one attraction. Now, if Space Mountain would have happened to be built someplace different, and I mean, I understand why, because of size, but if Space Mountain would have been built where Star Tours is, let's say that this was Space Mountain right here where Star Tours is, then they could have easily just kind of capped off Tomorrowland, kept it in this zone, and then this could have become something else. But they can't do it because you have to go all the way through Tomorrowland, hook a right to get over to Space Mountain, which is actually behind Main Street USA. So there's no other way to get people there. So therefore, you can't really trim back or just do a little bit of it. You have to do it all. So the success of Space Mountain, in conjunction with where it's located, I believe, is how Tomorrowland got to be in such a pickle. Focus on me. Here we go. People will riot if Space Mountain goes away. I absolutely agree. But I think that they have to do it in a different way. CKB, Space Mountain is continuously voted as one of the most popular theme park attractions in all of Southern California. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that a legend said that, because it is absolutely just so popular. Do you think they can create an alternative route, say through Center Street, for people to access Space Mountain during construction? Could you get to Space Mountain through Center Street? That's annoying because the sticker's slowly coming off. That is a really great question. I'll have to look at a map and fully break that down off the top of my head. That's a that's a great question. I love that. That's what I'm gonna have to look at on a map. What if they were to fix Tomorrowland like Toontown? Oh, so like take out the attractions and put down AstroTurf and make picnic areas? I'm all for it. Hey guys, the Carousel of Progress building is now going to become a picnic land of the future. Let's go. I'm all for it. Yeah, I mean, here's the problem. Where you actually enter Space Mountain and the way that the whole queue is designed goes even further back. So I know you guys are thinking, oh, you could just kind of go through, the Star Tours area. But yeah, you have people in the queue all the way on the other side. So now you're just routing out all this different space. Inevitably, you're going to get into where they keep the parade, the holding area for the parade. So I know that technically these things could be possible, but at what cost? And there's also the idea that Space Mountain is old, and they would probably like to take another chance at, redoing it. Got a couple of web store orders to put on here. Susan, thank you. And as well as who else? Ken Pace. Big time supporter. Those are all on there to help me. I have not been to Portland in quite a while. Been doing a lot of stuff for Lincoln for all of the SoCal accounts and haven't had to go up there. I was almost going to have to go up there this month, but then the client moved back the meeting to when I'm in Europe. And so now I don't get to do a pitch on a big project, which sucks because pitching is what I do best, or not pitching, but kind of delivering the pitch. The team does pitching the best, but I do a pretty good job of communicating. And so the pitch got moved to the first week of December, and I will not be in America that week. If there's a slide, my kids will love it. Yeah, you kind of did stump me. Well, I mean, I've never thought about it before. I'd like to look at the map and kind of see what the outcome of that would be. But yeah, that's a wild idea. I never really thought about going through Center Street. Yeah, I mean, a people mover. I mean, there could be a people mover at some future version of Tomorrowland, but it won't be that people mover because that people mover is doomed. It goes through every building. They've already kind of messed up all the track and the infrastructure with the rocket rods. It's like people are like, we'll just bring it back. Yeah, that's a lot more complicated than you think. So once again, that if they were like, okay, if we redid Space Mountain and we redid our layout and we redid a people mover, we could actually make a sick Tomorrowland, but we'd have to kind of do some hard reboots. They've kind of designed themselves both literally and physically into a corner with Tomorrowland because it sits right on the edge of harbor. It doesn't have any backstage space to grow, and they used every square inch of it for what they have. And because some of it is just fundamentally broken, they're in a bad spot. Oh, somebody got a patch. Who got a patch? Joey Moore. Tuck Joey right in there. All right, friends, it is 7:00. It looks like it is time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for hanging out. Raccoon. Cohen Film. Hey, is Cohen? No, it's not Cohen Film who made me mark up the wall. What's up, Cohen Film? We're going to want the People Mover to go through Space Mountain when they remodel Tomorrowland for 2039, 80 years after the monorail and Matterhorn were introduced. Yeah, we are. We're going to want to see that happen. All right, friends, I hope you enjoyed the live stream going over some different topics that I kind of stitched together, talking about current events and kind of doing it in a way where, what we're doing is we're looking at the different patterns here to kind of figure out what exactly is happening at the resort. Having a, mature conversation. When it warrants it, we'll go over to the board and we'll draw. I'm actually going to get a projector for the board so that I can be in a projection and draw over the top of maps and stuff. But we'll get there 1 week at a time. But definitely all of these people make it very, very easy to get there. Thank you to Alicia, Rich Otto, Janice, Jonathan, Joe, Cohen Film, Ken, Susan, Raccoon, Joey, and CKB. And producer Angela. By the way, how should I get that artwork to you? Joe, hit me up over on the heybrickey.com. There's a contact form. You can get me over there and hit me up over there. Angela, come to PDX and do a Magic Brickey holder meetup. That'd be kind of cool the next time I come up to Portland. If I said, hey, everybody, I'm going to be in Portland. Meet me here. Oh, Carl Jacobson. Thank you for getting the hat. Put Carl up on the wall. Yeah, maybe I'll do that the next time I come. Anyways, thank you so much for hanging out with me for another one of these weekly podcasts where we kind of, look at the current events, kind of talk them through, and then have a little fun at the end where we kind of get loose and go over to the wall and forever, every single week. What about Tomorrowland? All right, friends, thank you so much for showing up and hanging out with me as we do every Tuesday. I'll see you next Tuesday. And for everybody who voted, thank you. Appreciate you all. Have a great night. I appreciate you. This was a lot of fun. Vinton, thank you, bud. Stu. Stu.